If you like what we do here at Full Fat Videos, and you'd like to ask us questions directly, suggest new video topics, or hear our thoughts on the latest pop culture info nuggets, you can follow us on Twitter at Full Fat Videos.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So over time we've covered a lot of lightsaber duels at Full Fat Videos, because they're awesome. Give me a lightsaber duel hooked right into my veins 7 days a week because I'm a certified freak for the wars. We've covered the ins and outs of the Duel of Mustafar, the Duel of Bespin, the Duel of Fates, the best animated lightsaber duel, and we've still got more to go. But this week at Full Fat Videos, I don't want to just cover the duel in question. Like the excellent Mustafar fight, which actually cross-cuts to an entirely separate battle in the Senate between Yoda and, well, the Senate, Luke's final test in Return of the Jedi is a battle that cannot be fought alone. Amongst the clash of sabers, we're asked to follow two other conflicts simultaneously, both on the ground and in space. Between sets, locations and map paintings, the final instalment of the Star Wars trilogy paints an affecting and high-octane battle amongst the stars that really has hardly ever been beaten in blockbuster cinema. This, in my humble opinion, is the third act to an action-adventure movie to beat. This finale is Star Wars at the height of its powers, firing on every cylinder, delivering in spades just about everything you love about this weird and wonderful saga. Return of the Jedi might ultimately be the weakest film of the original trilogy, but this finale is my favourite sequence in Star Wars ever, and it explores every prescient theme that makes the wars so timeless and special. Family, love, friendship, redemption, sacrifice, revolution, destiny, it's all here wrapped up in a finale that mixes comedy and tragedy, dizzying highs and somber lows. It's affecting, it's heartbreaking, it's tragic and human and full of heart, whilst also being a mesmerising display of special effects wizardry. And it also just so happens to contain the greatest, most important moment in the entire saga, a moment that definitively ties together two trilogies and sees the epic saga of Anakin Skywalker come to a satisfying denouement that will probably never be topped. So in a prelude to the big finale, we see Luke reunited with Darth Vader.
This is a rebel that surrendered to us. He was armed only with this.
Good work, Commander.
I love how Vader and Luke are just eyeballing each other playing dumb, like they don't know exactly who each other is. Vader's just like, "Ah, yeah, thanks Commander for bringing this random rebel to me." The heart of this act lies in the relationship between Luke Skywalker and the man who was once Anakin Skywalker.
That name no longer has any meaning for me.
The last time these two met, things didn't go very well for either of them. Luke's reality was thrown upside down at the news that, you know what happened in Empire, I don't need to recap it, do I? You're not someone who's clicked on a breakdown for Return of the Jedi when you haven't even seen that or the preceding film, quite possibly the greatest sequel of all time. You are? Well, why are you bloody well watching this? You've got Star Wars to be getting on with. Come back later. In short, Luke's perception of Vader has changed.
So, you have accepted the truth.
I've accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
No longer does he see the cold, monstrous visage of Vader, but a man imprisoned by the dark side of the Force. Despite having only interacted a handful of times, Luke is certain that their familial bond will prevent the Dark Lord from committing the ultimate sin. Luke and Leia are the very last echoes of the man that was Anakin. Luke believes Vader cannot kill him, because to do so would mean destroying the last shred of light within him. In spite of all the years that have passed and everything he has done, Luke is convinced that he hasn't truly committed to those ways. He was tricked, seduced to the dark side. Anakin Skywalker is not beyond saving.
I know there is good in you. The Emperor hasn't driven it from you fully.
A few weeks ago I spoke a little bit about the power of Vader's performance in spite of being driven by simple physical actions devoid of any facial expressions, and I think this scene is a perfect example of that. Contrast this to the last time they met. Vader cut an imposing silhouette above Luke on the high ground. Here the two stand opposite each other, gone is the pomp and circumstance and the mind games. Vader is actually having a very candid conversation with his son.
Come with me.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
You were my brother, Anakin! I loved you!
You don't know the power of the dark side.
But that's not to say James Earl Jones' performance doesn't also carry a lot of the weight. His delivery of the line, "Obi-Wan once thought as you do," gives off the impression that the Sith still has an affection for the past, a longing, and perhaps even some regret. We, the audience, sense the conflict as much as Luke does. His matter-of-fact tone of voice lends well to these moments.
And you'll be forced to kill me.
If that is your destiny.
You get the impression that Vader knows it would be wrong to kill his only son, but his programming, his indoctrination steps in every time to reassure him that his path has been laid out before him.
It is too late for me, son.
I always feel so sorry for Vader here, and it's all in Dave Prowse's physicality and James Earl Jones' wondrous performance. They make you feel pity for a character not only behind a mask, but one that we have seen slaughter countless good people.
I must obey my master. No! It is too late for me, son.
I will do whatever you ask. Just help me save Padme's life.
Luke didn't think his father would take him to see the Emperor, but he's proven wrong at the first hurdle, setting the stage for him to be wrong about a great many more things. The scene ends with Luke being taken away, and we get a rare moment with Vader all by himself. Contrast how we first met him to this moment. He's no longer the big bad we need to see defeated, he's the victim that needs saving. Empire provides us with possibly the greatest twist in cinema history. Return is where we get to explore what that twist really means. If you're watching this, you've likely seen the end of Return of the Jedi so many times, so none of this is surprising or knocking you through a loop. But I like to try and always think about how I would feel if I was 5 years old again, experiencing these movies for the first time. And with that in mind, I think the structure of this finale does a really good job of making you second guess which way Vader is going to go. Vader might very well resist the call to the light. Luke might be forced to do something he doesn't want to do. One tiny thing I want to point out right at the start is that the build up to this finale feels epic. You ever find yourself watching an action-adventure movie and suddenly the finale just happens? Suddenly you're checking your watch, you're seeing the scale of the conflict, and you're thinking, okay, this must be the end, I guess. We're suitably in the third act. It probably just about works, but it doesn't give you the rush or the anticipation. Well, here every strand of the finale builds in tension and signals to you that yes, this is really it.
What's he saying?
He says there's a secret entrance on the other side of the ridge.
Han and Leia's squad infiltrating the shield generator, doing a bit of the old espionage? Check. The last Lightspeed jump of the original series, and of course it's freaking electric. The entire fleet warping at once. Yes please. We're reminded amidst the excitement that in order for this strand of the story to succeed, Han and Leia's strand must first succeed. But don't worry, he'll get that shield down in time.
Don't worry, my friend's down there. He'll have that shield down on time. Or this will be the shortest offensive of all time.
We couldn't possibly hit anything more to stack the odds against the rebels. We arrive at Palpatine's throne room. Luke and Palpatine have been destined to meet for 3 movies at this point, and if you look at it in the context of the Lucas saga in retrospect, 6 movies. We've seen what he did to Anakin, we know he wants the boy, it's all been leading to this in every single sense. The first 15 minutes are just an absolute pasting to the rebellion, topped off by Palpy's mugging running commentary. Luke watches helpless as all of this unfolds, the anger, the dark side building inside him. What I love about this scene between Luke and Palpatine is just how hobbled Vader is. He watches on obediently, only speaking when spoken to, when Palpatine needs something from him. After 3 movies of seeing this guy as the absolute big cheese, it's shocking to see who the most frightening man in the galaxy is afraid of.
You, like your father, are now mine.
I've spoken about Ian McDiarmid's performance in Return at length in my Palpatine video from last year, so I won't go too much into his process here. If you want to find out what the original voice for Palpy was going to sound like, I invite you to give that one a watch. But I will say that every second he is on screen is of course a delight. Palpatine is one of the most important characters in not only the narrative of Star Wars, but the overarching public image of the franchise. He's up there with Obi-Wan Kenobi for being a beloved, crowd-pleasing character.
Do it. Ironic.
And it's in Return of the Jedi that the die is cast for what kind of character Palpatine will become. All the things we love about him from his subsequent appearances, that is defined here. He's arrogant and mugging and clearly just having a total ball being on the dark side.
I'm afraid the deflector shield will be quite operational.
Visually, he's the perfect counterweight to Vader. Much like how James Cameron knew he could not top the hulking behemoth that was the T-800, so opted for a slimmer, leaner machine in the antagonistic T-1000, Lucas and the team make Vader's boss a short-withered man in a towel. The juxtaposition between the towering Vader and the slight Palpatine is a great image, and much like Yoda, proves strength in the Force is more than just size and speed. And he's more than comfortable to sit back and let his words do the heavy lifting.
Your friends up there on the Sanctuary Moon are walking into a trap, as is your rebel fleet. Everything that has transpired has done so according to my design.
He's so certain of the Empire's plan, so certain that this is their end and that Vader cannot be turned under any circumstances. He takes Vader's footing in the dark side as an absolute certainty, the same way Luke believes Anakin will return to the light.
With each passing moment, you make yourself more my servant.
Both of them stand diametrically opposed, competing for Vader's allegiance, signifiers to the balance between light and dark that Anakin himself represents in the Star Wars universe. This scene between the three of them is the most important meeting of players in the entire saga. This is one of those moments where the fate of the galaxy will be decided. Palpatine goads Luke into doing the one thing a Jedi shouldn't do: pick up his weapon in anger. I love this image because it sums up Palpatine perfectly, stoking the fires of conflict, mocking people to fight against their better nature whilst he sits at the sidelines spectating, laughing, mocking those he has manipulated into enacting his will. And this entire battle is a masterclass in editing. Think about the sheer amount of characters that you have to follow, all so far away from each other that some of them are in outer space, in the midst of a last stand between two armies. We follow no less than Han, Leia, Chewie, C-3PO and R2-D2, Lando and Nub-Nub, the A-Wing fighter, Wedge Antilles, Admiral Akbar, Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, Palpatine, these two Imperial dickheads, and Ewoks. Lots of Ewoks. Of course, the three visually distinct planes of action that all of these characters inhabit wouldn't be difficult to tell apart, granted, putting the coherence of the cut in the editor's favour, but what is so well communicated is the time between different characters reacting to the same plot beats. When Palpatine reveals the whole operation is a trap,
it's a trap!
Yes, it's a trap,
It's a trap!
and confirms that the battle station is
Fully armed and operational.
we cut to see an entire starship obliterated, and Lando realises the horror.
That blast came from the Death Star.
We're seeing how the leaders gloat about their strategies as the soldiers on the ground and in space see them unfold.
If you will not fight, then you will meet your destiny.
I like that as much as we, the audience, feel Vader's conflict, the scene plays Vader's vindictive side just enough to make us feel like he's going to destroy Luke, as we see Luke repeatedly refuse and fail to stop the fight.
You are unwise to lower your defenses.
Love that Vader is really going for the spooking with that last bit.
Defenses.
And every time Luke gets the high ground, Vader desists until he comes up with a new strategy. I know that wasn't intentional, but it's still kind of fantastic. The throne room set is just insanely good. The multiple levels allowing the duelists to be framed in arresting high and low angles, capturing the ever-changing dynamics of power in the fight as Vader goads Luke into clashing sabers. Although somehow Vader can still look so incredibly intimidating when shot from above, which is really a testament to his design. I also think this duel is structured really well around the other scenes we're cutting between. Do you ever get annoyed at a movie for cutting away from the fight too quickly? Like in Avengers Endgame, Cap, Iron Man and Thor, they start wailing on Thanos and then, oh, now we're back to Hulk. Go back to the epic fight that just commenced, please. The Luke-Vader duel cuts between other events regularly, but the more meditative nature of the fight allows for moments where cutting away makes sense. For example, here when we leave the fight, Luke has been well and truly pwned, sent careening down into the lower levels of the throne room as Vader pursues. We cut to Lando and the rebels in outer space, who proclaims,
Come on, Han, old buddy, don't let me down.
This then provides our segue to Han and Leia's battle down on Endor. By the time we're back to watching the Luke-Vader duel, the pace of the fight has slowed right down and Luke is in hiding whilst the Metal Menace taunts him. We haven't missed out on any of the fisticuffs, saber cuffs, in the interim, and so we don't feel shortchanged when it cuts from sabers to starships. I know it sounds kind of obvious, but it's something that I see so many action movies do badly, and when Star Wars can chain each scene together so effectively, it's worth praising. I sit there every time looking at all the chaos unfolding on screen, how it utterly and completely transports me into space, and I think, how the hell did this come out in 1983? Also, I love this cut.
I got an idea.
That is all. This finale covers pretty much every single prescient theme in the Star Wars saga. The themes of family are obvious, but it also delves into the bonds between the family that you can choose.
Your overconfidence is your weakness.
Your faith in your friends is yours.
Across the trilogy, we've seen this band of characters become close. The princess who lost her home, the farm boy dreaming of a world beyond the dust and desert, the smuggler with no path, the betrayer willing to sell out, the space dog who's actually over 100 years old.
You look great!
Even though they're split apart for the entirety of this battle, they work together as one. All the Emperor has close to him is a broken man he once enslaved. Luke has the trust and love of his greatest friends willing to sacrifice anything to overthrow the oppression of the Sith. It was Luke's very connection to his friends that sent him diving headfirst into Vader's trap on Bespin. He willingly ventured into a battle with nothing but blind faith, and he was forced to endure possibly the single most traumatic moment of his entire life. And yet, it hasn't stirred so much as a wobble in the faith he has for his friends. Even when the fleet is on fire and Palpatine is sure it's all over, Luke continues on. He has too much of his father's heart in him. And that theme of friendship runs through another thread of this epic finale, a thread which might low-key bring me the most sheer unadulterated joy. Lando and Nub Nub. When the entire fleet is shaking because the shields are up and that battle station is fully armed and operational, the chips are down, when every other ship in the fleet is ready to admit that the Death Star is impregnable, one man refuses to lose faith in his best friend.
And we'll have that shield down. We've got to give him more time.
Lando sold Han Solo out to ensure his own safety, a shameful move that unravelled before his very eyes.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
And now, when the stakes are 1,000 times higher, Lando refuses to turn and run when anyone else might call it quits. Redemption isn't just reserved for Vader.
Come on, Han, old buddy, don't let me down.
And heroism isn't reserved for Luke, or even the lead characters we've been following since the saga's inception. Something I've always loved so much about this finale is that it's a total group effort. No single moment turns the tide of the battle, it takes everyone, even the perceived little people, as well as the literal little people, to take the Empire on. Remember this guy?
I can take on the whole Empire myself. Dax!
Yeah, that didn't work out for him, did it? Don't be like Dax, be like Lando. It takes the entire rebellion to destroy the Empire, and unlike other Wars finales that spring a load of nameless ships out its arse in time for the page of the script where the good guys win for no apparent reason, we actually get a little bit of time with different members of the fleet. Who can forget this absolute weapon that takes down the Super Star Destroyer all by himself? The way Akbar just slinks back in his chair as everyone else celebrates, lamenting the loss of life even in the face of victory. There's so much heart in this moment, and it was done with an actor wearing a gigantic fish head. Hell, Palpatine is already dead by the time we're entering the Death Star's core. Finishing him off isn't even the be-all and end-all of the battle, although more on that in a bit. George Lucas has since explained that his rationale behind the first Star Wars was to show really flashy quick shots of the spaceships flying past the camera to distract from anything that would give the models away. That rationale led to the intense whip-smart depiction of the X-Wings that would go on to be, in my opinion, topped once we saw what the Millennium Falcon could really do in Empire. And look, I think in terms of the visceral thrill from seeing those ships cut through space, Return of the Jedi has the whole franchise beat. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that every single shot of the fighters bobbing and weaving amongst the capital ships, they're all breathtaking.
You're breathtaking! You're all breathtaking!
Most shots remained snapped onto a particular ship, not only allowing the shot to be easy to follow, but leads to some awesome topsy-turvy angles in one continuous shot. I'm pretty sure I could watch a supercut of these on repeat all day long. And you know what? The Ewoks are f***ing fantastic. You know I've got a soft spot for dogs and furry critters. Hell, I didn't even want the spider to get hurt in my Return of the King video. You didn't possibly expect me to hate on the Ewoks, did you? What's better than a teddy bear that can also beat up fascists? I don't think it's ridiculous that they mess up the Empire. It's a surprise attack on their home turf, a place they've grown up and defended forever, with the help of the Rebellion on their side, not to mention that group including the likes of Han Solo, Leia Organa, and Mr. Chewie. I think it's more ridiculous people didn't expect these bucketheads to get messed up by the teddy bears. Come on. Plus there's that bit where one of the Ewoks loses his mate and he's upset. It's so sweet. How can you not like them? They're so entertaining. But I also think the Ewoks are an essential reason as to why the finale is top tier. Comedy and goofiness is just as much a part of Star Wars as Destinies and the Force, and the fact that this sequence so effortlessly slips between an Ewok wrapping his own bolas around his face to the evilest of evil entities in the entire galaxy tempting Luke to the dark side is a testament to how well it all ties together. And plus, a bunch of vertically challenged nobodies taking on the combined might of the dark side, that's what Star Wars does best. Ewoks are tiny little creatures armed with only sticks and stones, with no access to luxuries or advantages that their opponents enjoy. In the ultimate battle for the universe, there's quite possibly no better underdogs to face the Empire. And yeah, I know they were meant to sell toys, but so is all of Star Wars and most movie franchises, so, you know, if we're going to start harping on about that, let's not start with the Ewoks, eh? Let's start with insanely roided Luke. Han and Leia's segment down on the moon of Endor is probably the weakest section of the battle, but I think that's less because it sucks and more because the space stuff and the lightsaber clashing is just so damn good. The Endor bits by comparison are more fun asides. Isn't it just endlessly entertaining watching these Imperial dorks get their asses handed to them? Shout out to this poor guy who takes a tumble. Okay, now I've got to see those dickheads realising all too late that the bridge is about to be boarded again. Too late! Do I wish Han and Leia had a little bit more to do in this finale? Sure. I once saw someone on a forum suggest that Boba Fett should have survived in the first act of the movie, only to emerge as an Imperial gun for hire in the third act, tasked with guarding the shield generator. That would have been a cool way to raise the stakes in this segment and give Han and Leia a more concentrated physical threat. Plus Boba could have gone out like less of a bitch. But that's more of a note on the action. The character side of things I find extremely satisfying. Not only does Han Solo trick the Imperials into simply walking outside the base, seriously, the dumb should have just stayed indoors, it's hilarious. It's also the impetus for the best Han Solo shrug of the series. You get full tilt muggy Han Solo, but you also get to watch him melt too.
I love you.
I know.
What a simple but satisfying coda to one of the most iconic moments from the last movie.
When he comes back, I won't get in the way.
After all of the swagger and the charm, Han Solo is really just a boy standing in front of a girl. He cares about Leia's happiness before his own. He'd rather see her with Luke if that is what she wants. Once a smuggler who initially claims to only be in it for the money, now the rebellion hero who helped take down the Death Star. Once petulant and self-centered, now selfless, loving, kind. All things that were always in Han Solo. And luckily for Han, and to be honest the audience, Leia doesn't want Luke.
He's my brother.
If you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will.
I feel like this is one of the exchanges between Luke and Vader that really sells us on the fact that they are father and son, particularly if you look at the twin Lucas trilogies in unison. We know that Anakin feared the death of others and the continual loss of those closest to him. This was a fear that only served to torment him more and more until the allure of the dark side proved too much. We know that there's precedent for a Skywalker's fear to oh so easily transform into rage. Vader knows this better than anyone, and the fact that he then uses that same trigger, that fear of losing a loved one, to coax the same response out of Luke is chilling.
Your feelings for them are strong, especially for sister.
This is the very last time in the series that Vader gets to be evil. So it's fitting that the method of coercion used on him in his youth is the thing that he reflects back upon his child in his final moments. Of course, it does spark something in Luke, and it isn't long before he... Everything is going as planned. Luke has proven that he is the superior Skywalker. He's bested Vader and sent him to the ground whimpering.
Your hate has made you powerful. Now, fulfill your destiny.
And then without dialogue, we cut between Luke's dishevelled face to his own hand and then to Vader's limb. The process had long since begun. Luke has been training to become a Jedi, or has he slowly been groomed into a Sith? The same gradual process, the same mind games that twisted his father's mental state until nothing of the original good-hearted man was left. All Luke has to do is accept the Emperor's offer, and all of this can go away. Ultimately, this duel isn't about saber swings or power levels or besting your opponent. Luke wins, inverted commas, because he gives up the physical battle. He destroys Vader, but decides to leave him lying on the ground in lieu of delivering the final blow. Finally, Vader feels what it was like to be Dooku in the final moments of his life. He knows all too well how powerful Palpatine's charm and charisma can be when that promise of ultimate power is dangled in front of you. Surely he can only assume that same promise will goad his own son down the same path he failed to resist, and it's going to play out in exactly the same agonising detail before his very eyes. But Luke still holds on to something that Vader has forgotten. he is a Skywalker.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me. I'll never turn to the dark side.
He tosses the lightsaber away, the only tangible defense against the Master of the Sith, and Luke Skywalker flings it to the side. Lightsabers, so uncivilized. The Force is a far more elegant weapon. As if these weren't the biggest balls Palpatine has ever seen, Luke steps it up even more with what is, to my mind, the best line of the entire series.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
I refuse your paradigm where my father is a terrible person just because you bullied, eviscerated and indoctrinated him until barely anything was left of who he used to be. I refuse to give up no matter how many times he tries to kill me. I refuse the next part in this chain. I refuse to let you win, even if it means the end of me and him. I'm going to plant myself like a tree and say, no, you move. It goes about as well as you would expect. No, but seriously, it doesn't matter that he's defenseless, of course. It's about the sacrifice. Vader has done so many bad things and maybe doesn't deserve saving, but Luke still forfeits his life just to show him that Anakin Skywalker is worth it, and he's the only one that can destroy Palpatine. Luke's stand is the moment that defines him as the greatest Jedi in the series, which can only really be challenged by one true contender.
Hello there.
Yeah, look, I can't get enough of some Obi-Wan just as much as the next Star Wars fan, and he's endlessly fun to watch no matter what era or actor you choose. But if we're being really real here, it's Luke that manages to save Anakin Skywalker when literally no one else could. Anakin, not a perfect Jedi, but ultimately a good man. Anakin is the chosen one, but the honour of greatest Jedi will always belong to this small-time farm boy. What might have happened had Obi-Wan refused to let Anakin go on that fateful day upon Mustafar all those years ago? As awesome and as dear as Obi-Wan Kenobi is to me, it is Luke that accomplishes even the one thing that Jedi Master could not do. And Vader doesn't murder the Emperor, his actions are not born out of bloodthirst, he kills the Emperor because it is the only way to save his son. He isn't goaded into giving in to his worst self, he is convinced that the best version of who he can be still lingers deep down inside him. I know it might seem strange to ever refer to Vader as sweet, but the way he turns back and forth between Luke and Palpatine, trying to decide what to do, it just gets me. And then that little tilt down to the floor, as if he laments on all of his bad deeds every time he chose the quick and easy path to become an agent of evil. He finally says to himself, no. For clarification, he says no inside his head. That's the superior version by a mile. Don't like that change in the most recent editions at all, but anyway. Vader dies and Anakin Skywalker rises. The return of the Jedi. This is all of the Jedi. This is when the Jedi strike back. For everyone they lost, it doesn't take saying it to make it so. Luke and Anakin are the last Jedi, but it is the ideals of the Jedi in their purest form that still win out. It's so satisfying to see Vader lift up Palpatine with the same robot limbs the Sith Lord gave him, carrying him across the walkway as he screams in fear before falling to meet his maker. Could your death get any more definitive than falling down a bottomless pit and exploding, and then seeing the structure around said bottomless pit exploding into atoms? Gee, I wonder if there was some secrets only the Sith knew, right? And again, redeemed Dad Vader, he's so sweet. That armour that was once a signifier of Sith power now reminds us that it was used to hobble and contain a great Jedi.
Help me take this mask off.
But you'll die.
Nothing can stop that now.
That mask no longer looks threatening, it looks like a prison. So Luke saves him one last time.
Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes.
Anakin Skywalker here is played by the late Sebastian Shaw, and what a performance it is. Shaw conveys the weight of this moment almost exclusively in those kind eyes. You feel the catharsis that the character has been waiting for all this time. Many actors have betrayed the dual visage of Anakin Skywalker, but this performance might just be one of my favourites. How can any Star Wars fan forget that smile? Plus, Anakin's last line in the series is beautifully heartbreaking.
Tell your sister you were right.
The final thing he thinks about in his mortal form is his children. He's proven something to Luke, but he wants to make sure his daughter at least knows, in some small way, that her biological father still had good in him. Not to mention Padme's prophecy was, of course, true.
There's good in him. I know
There's still a Death Star to destroy, kids. At this point in the finale, the Empire is finished, so wisely the film doesn't make a big deal out of trying to take out the space station once our heroes hit the reactor core. You can't top the trench run, they knew that, so they don't try to. Instead, the music swells as our Lando and Wedge blow this popsicle stand and attempt to outrun the explosion. Of course, the whole fleet is making their escape and the Millennium Falcon is the last one out. No matter how many times I watch this movie, I still get tense seeing the flames creep up on the ship and then overtake it. The Falcon looks done for. Lando and Num Nub's reaction is the audience. Yeah. Without words, Luke lays his father to rest, the very last melancholic image of the Star Wars saga. This is then balanced with the greatest celebration scene of the series too. I gotta say, this scene is just perfect. Every single detail, after all the drudgery and death and destruction across not only this trilogy, but the entirety of the Skywalker journey, to see everyone so happy, knowing what they have accomplished is, well, it makes them feel real. I get a kick out of watching them party on and being excellent to each other because they freaking earned that shit. Everyone did. And of course Star Wars has to end with the party to end all parties in the galaxy. Every planet, everywhere, is over the moon to hear that the Death Star went down over the moon. I may not dig the inclusion of Vader's nose, but the revised editions make some other changes that I can definitely get behind. Getting the chance to see Naboo and Coruscant among Endor and Tatooine and Bespin ties both trilogies together. Those planets were intrinsic to the story told across Menace, Clones and Sith, and if we're wrapping up the story of Anakin Skywalker, it makes sense that we see them. It's also pertinent to the end of Palpatine. We see his home planet and the capital of the galaxy where he staged his coup all those years ago, and not a single person in these frames laments the loss of Emperor Palpatine. How fitting that his evil is extinguished, and all the way back on his home planet, everyone cheers. Maybe it would have been saccharine in any other scenario, but this feels earned tonally. You've got to bring balance to a finale featuring an armada of space fascists with a kick-ass party, right? Plus Hayden Christensen being the Force Ghost, that makes way more sense to me. Obi-Wan and Yoda died as Jedi OAPs, but Anakin Skywalker died a Jedi in his youth, hence why I was adamant on referring to him as Vader in our Mustafar Duel video. Sure, he turns to the light before he dies, but I think the man who killed the Emperor deserves to have the dignity of appearing before his son in his prime, before he was disfigured and encased in darkness. And I'll never forget that final shot. The whole gang together, smiling, happy. As a kid, I used to think about that shot a lot because I never, ever in a million years thought you'd ever see those guys after the fact. Episode 7 was an impossibility. This is where the story ends, this is it. I know that there was always the expanded universe in the first place, but when I was a youngling, I didn't know about any of that stuff. Star Wars Birth to Death, it was 6 movies. Well, 6 movies and copious amounts of Lego. Oh, and Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I played the shit out of that game and I need to honour it in video form someday. But anyway, yeah, this was the end. The perfect track to go out on, the perfect union of old and new, the perfect smiles, magical. Obviously now, I might see things a little differently.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
Even though there's things I like about both The Force Awakens and The Lost Jedi, I'm not sure if they're worth existing if they have to come pre-packaged with this hulking turd of a movie that destroys so much of what makes Star Wars special. Star Wars is the story of Darth Vader from birth to death. Telling a story set after the fact can still be about Darth Vader in essence. Through his children and grandchildren, we can explore systemic issues, the battle between nature and nurture, the idea that your bad deeds will not only hurt and affect you, but your entire flock. Having a character like Kylo Ren, obsessed with Vader's legacy, pondering the ramifications of what it means to hold so much power, that works. That feels like the natural progression of the story to me. That even in doing the right thing at the end of his life, Vader's legacy will always be one of evil as much as it is of good. Balance. But then giving Ben Solo the same exact character arc in a rushed, half-assed way just cheapens what made the original trilogy's redemptive denouement so pivotal. And bringing back the Emperor, what the f*** was that shit? I'm sorry, but that's just another level of crap. It's one of those things that, even in the trailers before The Rise of Terrio came out, I was thinking, Palpatine, back from the dead, doesn't that negate the importance of Vader's sacrifice? Doesn't that dampen the payoff when he avenged Padme, the Jedi, and every single being in the galaxy that lost their lives under Palpatine's regime? And yeah, it totally does in the movie. They brought Palpatine back only for him to hang off the end of a crane for 2 hours and then explode. He doesn't even get his army out the parking lot when you actually think about it. Pathetic. At least McDermott has still got the moves. When Anakin kills the Emperor, that needs to stick. Having him come back to the physical world to suggest that he tricked Darth Vader all along and managed to survive is fanfiction at best and creatively bankrupt at worst. It doesn't make sense from a logistical standpoint, and yet the real crime is surely the character assassination of both Anakin and Sheev in one fell swoop. But you know what? I'm not going to let it matter, and it shouldn't detract from how perfect the ending of Star Wars Episode 6 Return of the Jedi is. I'm still not sure if I want the sequel trilogy to exist as canon in my head, which makes me sad to say, even if there's things in it I loved amongst the things that so sorely disappointed and bastardised the whole story that was wrapped up in a neat little bow. I don't want to dwell on hating those things too much. After all that leads to is suffering, right? I love Star Wars. I love democracy. I love the Republic. I love Star Wars, and there's loads of great Star Wars out there. It's not hard to find, and there is so much of it. Top tier stuff that reaffirms my faith in movie making. But when Star Wars goes god tier, when it sticks the landing so well to deliver on the promise of everything Star Wars can and should be, that's magic. That's the kind of storytelling that reaffirms my faith in people, in our ability to always let our best selves prevail, in our patience to allow people to pick themselves back up. Star Wars, no matter what infighting might go on, no matter what quibbles might be had over who shot first, or what is and isn't true to a character, it's ultimately a force for positivity, a chance for love to trump hate, an opportunity to remind us what we can accomplish together, no matter what power we may hold, or how powerless we might feel. It reminds us of the importance of family, as much as it shows us the strength of the family we choose, and it shows us that no matter how impossible or insurmountable the challenge may seem, there is always a way to get up and do. Hi guys, Matt here. Thank you for watching another full fat video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell so you know when a new video drops. If you'd like to get in touch with me, why not follow me on Twitter at fullfatvideos or on Instagram at full_fat_videos. A big personal thank you to our full fat tier patrons, Dr. Chike, Jax Merrick and Cyrus Sulker. Your ongoing support keeps the lights on. Until next time, keep it full fat.